everyone, my name is OMSTRB, and today I want to talk to you about sidechain compression. I'm sure everybody has their own methods and their preferred ways of doing things, but I discovered something that I think is pretty interesting and I wanted to share it with you, and it might change your mind about which your preferred method might become. So what I've done is loaded up 3 different volume shaping plugins, a gate, and 3 different sidechain compression methods, as well as a utility. Now before I get into this, I'm going to show you what we're dealing with, just a little chord progression on an 8th note arpeggiator with chord trigger. Okay, you get the idea. So first we're going to load up ShaperBox for a Cable Guys Volume Shaper 5, and I try to draw in as good of a curve as I could for sidechain purposes. And with that being on, it's going to sound like this. I think you can already hear that little click and pop. Just to show you that it wasn't any of these other programs interfering with each other, I'm just going to go ahead and play it. See, no signal coming through, no signal coming through. That's because the routing is being done on this channel, and if you're curious about this I can go over it in another tutorial, but I'm just going to go ahead and move on. So now we've got Volume Shaper 4 playing. Let's listen. I think you can still hear the click. LFO tool. You can still hear the click. I can still hear the click. Okay, so we've established that all 3 of these click ever so slightly. So we're going to turn that off, turn off utility. Let's try gate. Let's see how gate sounds in a sidechain format. And it's being triggered by a ghost channel down here, you know, blah blah blah. I don't like the shape that the gate gives for sidechain, but I knew it was another way to show this, so I used it. But I can still hear the click. Let's go ahead with this is actually Ableton 8's compressor, because I think everybody agrees the older model handled the transients faster than the newer model. So on FF1 mode, Ableton 8 compressor. Sounds like it's moved down more into the mid-range, right? Like a little more blocky, maybe about 500, maybe 750. Let's do FF2. If you notice, as it goes on, it actually starts getting the higher range click, the higher frequency range click. Interesting. Now I've got the actual current compressor. Just says Ableton 8 compressor because I duplicated it over and then clicked upgrade. But this is the current compressor, and it's being sidechained through the ghost channel. So we got peak RMS. So on peak mode, let's hear how it sounds. Let's turn this ratio up. You hear that click? Okay, let's try RMS. Didn't do anything, just a more pronounced dip since it's going for the average level of the signal instead of the peak. But it's kind of interesting to me because the sample is so short. Anyway, about to get off topic. Glue compressor, sidechain compression mode. We're going to hear how this one sounds. Pretty smooth. I think that's pretty darn smooth. Okay, so out of all these, I think the glue compressor is our contender. But now I'm going to go back through all of them because maybe some of y'all didn't hear that. Maybe you think I'm full of it, and that's totally fine. I know I'm kind of bucking a lot of information that's out there, but I'm prepared for that. I did stick a limiter on here, but from here on out, we're going to be listening to about 10 kilohertz extremely boosted. So if you want to go ahead and turn your headphones down now, go ahead. So we're going back to Shaperbox again, this time with the boost, so you can really hear that click. Here's Shaperbox, even more pronounced. Volume Shaper 4. LFO tool. You hear that transient just slipping through. Okay, so we're gonna turn that off, turn on the gate, see what the gate does. Yep, tick, tick. Okay, Ableton 8 compressor on FF1. FF2. Terrible. The current Ableton compressor, live compressor, but everybody calls it Ableton, so why bother? Okay, I'm not even gonna try RMS because you already know that sounds, it doesn't affect anything. For this particular test, all right, glue compressor. So I would say the glue compressor is still the smoothest. So let's go ahead and bring them down here. Now I give you utility automation. Do you hear anything? Let's listen, back side by side. But then utility. That is smooth, man. Side by side, you can tell the difference, right? So yeah, me personally, when I'm trying to duck something out, I want it to completely duck, like down to 0, as close as I can get it. And now that I know that these devices all have this tiny transient before they actually activate, I can't use anything but utility. Oh, and if you wanted to see it, I'll just go ahead. Utility gain. This was kind of not the most fun thing in the world, but what I basically did is I just pulled up Shaperbox and then just kind of, you know, copied the curve until it sounded good. But the good thing about this is once you have a good curve, you can just copy it over. And you can save this channel, and it can become your new go-to sidechain device. Now, this is information, do with it what you will. I hope this helped bring some light to what these devices are actually doing and their limitations. Oh, and just before I go, I did mess with the track delay on here, but really it was just more of a headache, and you know, the automation, the utility gain automation did not depend on any finicking whatsoever. So for my money, I'm just going to go with the utility. And you do need Live 10 to do this, because Live 10 updated where it can actually go down to -infinity dB. But I mean, I can't recommend Live 10 enough. So with that being said, and before I ramble anymore, this has been OMSTRB. If there's anything else that you'd like covered more, just leave it in the comments below. I'll be back with another tutorial later this week. I'm going to show you how you can do something cool with MIDI instruments that I don't think a lot of people really play around with. Okay, thanks. Bye.